What's up, y'all? Down South 77 again, and this is 3 Star Draw, the adult collector channel where we talk about G.I. Joe and G.I. Joe related things, specifically G.I. Joe Classified. Every now and then, we might wander off into other territory and talk about some other properties, some other figures. I'm not going to do it a whole lot, but I'm collecting a few other things here or there, so when I get them, I'm going to talk about them. Today is getting back into my Limelight series. This is my sub series where I take one figure and really the character itself and I put it in the Limelight, where we kind of go over a little bit of the history of the character, maybe what attachment that character might have to me as growing up as a G.I. Joe fan. And we're going to take a look at the classified version. And if it's something I got and I can get out, we're going to take a look at the original Real American Hero figure. Never know what other media I like to put up, whatever I have that relates to that character, comics or, whatever. I like to put some other stuff to kind of highlight stuff that character was in. So today's video is a loser from a previous poll that I put up, but we had to get to this guy sooner or later, so I'm going to go ahead and do the video on him as a very polarizing character in the G.I. Joe universe. I'm kind of stuck in the middle on this guy. I like one version, but not the other. I like the idea, but I don't like the presentation, and that is none other than the Cobra Emperor Serpentor, or as Sergeant Slaughter might say, Serpentor. That always cracked me up when he said that in the movie. Oh yeah, Serpentor. If I ever see Sergeant Slaughter again, I gotta ask him if he'll do that line. I wish I'd have thought of that when I met him. Anyway, let's take a look at Serpentor. Well, there is no shortage of media when looking up materials for Serpentor. I'm mostly going to stick to the Real American Hero type continuity for Serpentor. Just about every iteration of G.I. Joe since he's been uh, brought back into the lore for whatever that continuity is. Honestly, this dude's been resurrected more than something in a George Romero film, and I'm not going to get into all of it. I don't know the details of all of it because honestly, I don't care all that much. This is what really seems to stick with me, and when I think about that character, it's the Real American Hero version. So basically, he was scoured, his DNA was scoured from all of history's um, leaders, madmen, conquerors, kings, and basically thrown into a stew and given in memories, DNA, everything. Memory was locked into the DNA and reanimated a clone body that Dr. Mindbender had cooked up, who on his original file card they actually call the interrogator. If you remember, Mindbender was the Cobra interrogator when he first started out. And that was here in issue 49. There's Mindbender the Interrogator and Destro stealing a mummy that somehow has an eye open and is like, what the fuck? I was asleep. So there, that's that. That's a really good depiction of actually how they stole the DNA for him. I really always like this cover. You can see he's probably in a tomb here with hieroglyphs on it. And at the end of this issue in the comic is when he wakes up, and then this issue here is where they go and assault Cobra, the Battle of Springfield. He is promptly featured very heavily in this issue and kind of goes from there for the next 26 issues. He's a really big part of it. So that's kind of the creation of Serpentor. The Sergeant Slaughter thing was in the cartoon, and they left that part out in the comic. Actually, he used some of Storm Shadow's DNA in the comic, I believe, and they created Serpentor. Serpentor is loved or hated. Um, there's not a whole lot of middle ground people. I kind of am because I like the idea of it. I like the sci fi kind of element to it. I just don't like the way that they pulled it off. Serpentor seemed. I know they have to sell toys and come up with new characters to replace versions of old characters to keep the line interesting. I know how all that works, but I'm in my 40s now, and I can look back on it and talk about how freaking ridiculous it was. I like the character. I just don't like how they pulled the character off. Pretty much in any media, he was better in the comic, as were most of these guys. But here's what a lot of people remember him from right here. I don't have a VHS or a DVD for Arise Serpentor Arise, which in my opinion was probably the second best of the miniseries. A lot of people will disagree with me just because he's in it, but you got to see a lot of cool characters. That's when you first get to see the Bats and Sergeant Slaughter. Here's where they got a little wacky with him, but as we all know, he was not the wackiest part of this here. So put that over there. And I do have, of course, over here my trusty Order of Battle number 3, and there is all of Serpentor's file card if you want to pause that and read it. And it's a very, very good illustration of him. Compared to some of the others, it's kind of meh. It's almost like whoever illustrated this wanted it to look good but not great. Hey, there's a good one. When are we going to get that version? I know he's coming. So let's set that aside for just a minute on the Order of Battle. Somewhere, I'll find somewhere to put that. So that's a little bit of the creation of how he came to be. And the replacement of Cobra Commander was not something many fans wanted to see, but obviously Hasbro needed a new leader character, and going the whole Serpentor versus Cobra Commander thing was a good way to sell more toys. And then the writers in the comic kind of got stuck with having to work it in. I'm sure the writers and the animators both were like, oh, come on now. But I do think he's very cool, and I would have liked to seen him introduced in a different way, or maybe fit into the lore in a different way. And I think that's what they've tried to do with some of the later itinerations of GI Joe, was tried to make him into different things. And I mean, some are good, some are not. He's always a zombie or he's a clone or something. And then in the IDW, they made him into a cult leader, like a religious cult leader dude. I just, the whole thing's just wacky. But let's take a look at my original Serpentor. This is what's left of mine from when I was a kid. I don't have the back piece. I don't have the cape. I don't have the dagger. I don't have the snake. I don't have much of anything left other than him, because once I saw him in the cartoon, he became a whole lot cooler. I love his outfit. He's all garish, and I like kind of crazy, ostentatious things as long as they're not in neon completely. So I liked him. I like the royal looking element to him. Really awesome sculpting on this figure. Um, I like the scales. He was just a really neat figure and really unique. And I think the direction they had to take with him back in '86 when they worked him in back then really turned a lot of people against what he could have been. I like the idea of the DNA from all the different leaders and things. I think it's cool, but he just was not executed nearly as well as he was in issue 76. Zing. That's why Zartan comes with the bow, ladies and gentlemen. Well, that and the Hardmaster, we know. So here is Classified Serpentor. He's the biggest figure in the line so far. I'm curious to see when we get Nemesis Immortal how he sizes ranked to, next to Serpentor. This is an excellent figure. The only thing I don't like about this figure is he's a little loose. That's really the only thing there is to complain about with this figure. And he comes with a ton of accessories. Before I really get into him, show off You know, he's got a giant package, and I messed mine up with the flap there, trying to get everything out. Because unlike Mindbender, I have had all of his accessories out and posed him in different ways. So he's got this part that slides out, and not gonna show much of that. There's not much reason to when I show you this. So opens up, and that's where your figure's at. It's got the really cool artwork of the air chariot there. It's got the kind of the lockers and electrical panels and stuff, a lot like Mindbender does. It mirrors the way Mindbender's packaged, but I like that artwork there with the air chariot sitting there. Good if I can quit hitting that mic. I can't ever seem to get in the right spot. So you got the Cobra Serpent DNA there on the box. And on the back, you've got the fantastic artwork with different pictures of things from him, his campaigns. You've got him sitting on the throne there, sitting on Lincoln from Arise, Serpentor Arise. You got him beating the hell out of Cobra Commander. You got him flying with the air chariot, leading the Cobra forces to victory. Destro and the Baroness, who followed him. And then up here, this is actually in the comic where he, I think that's in issue 50. He gets shot and he heats his knife and he cauterizes the wound. Just very awesome artwork. I love this artwork on the packaging. So let's get back to the figure. This is how he's posed on my shelf. I did have him getting ready to execute Falcon for a long time on my shelf till I rearranged them. But just the sculpting, he has the scales. It's everything that was in this figure, just dialed up to 10. The detail in the snakes around his neck. Of course, he's got the soft good cape that it also looks like scales. He's got a lot of accessories. This claw detaches and it comes off very easily. It falls off easy. He's got a short version and he's got a long version. I usually keep the long ones on him. The short one actually fits in there better and stays on a little bit better. It just pegs in that hole right there. That's what she said. But it's easy. It's easier to hit and knock off because the blades for it are longer. I like the sword he comes with. Kind of looks like a snake there. It's got red paint apps, a little jewel down there on the bottom on the hilt, and it's got the curved blade or the angular blade. If you get stabbed with this thing, if it goes into the hilt, you're done for. I think it's very neat looking. Looks like something, a king would have. Like a king carrying a blade into battle. That's what I would imagine. Let's see if that will focus in. Yeah, it's got sculpting into it. Just very neat blade. And of course, I had him with this for a long time. I had him posed with this staff where he was getting ready to, I think he was knocking Duke out was how I had him. But this thing is as tall as he is almost. Cool little gem down there at the bottom. Same kind of gem that is in the sword hilt. Just overall, just an astonishing looking figure. He's got all your regular articulation, double jointed elbows. Everything down to the detail on the boots looks amazing on this figure. I mean, it's a kingly regal. I mean, you're not going to look at this guy and not know that he's some kind of regal ruler figure. I mean, when you hear Cobra Emperor, and emperors kind of tend to let stuff go to their head, and that is definitely what he did. But you can also change that out, and you can change the cowl out on the back piece where it's this one big long piece that fits over, and that snaps in, and that goes on top. What's the easiest way to do this? Top first or back first? I don't like this one nearly as well because I don't like the way it fits. Yeah, there we go. This one looks good. I don't necessarily like the way it fits in. This one is actually closer to the back piece that he had. He had this piece on the original figure that was served as his backpack, and it come up. So this is to make him look more like the original version. I just like him better without it. It's just a personal choice, whichever look works for you. Just, man, for the love of God, don't leave him like that. Is it? Does anybody else see blinged out RoboCop? There's all these people. I see RoboCop stuff everywhere lately. So I like that one. I think it's just a cleaner. This is more. This is like something he would wear around sitting on his throne when he's giving orders. And this is more like he took that off when he goes into battle, and he's got his little snake helmet there, like his war helmet. I just like that look better. But he's a very nicely sculpted figure. You pay a premium for him. He's one of the more expensive figures that's out there. Of course, he was an exclusive, and he was apparently made in quite a bit more limited run, which some of those earlier exclusives were. I don't think now they're not doing that. I think now they just slap exclusive on it just to ramp up the FOMO. But the FOMO for this guy is real. He's out there. You can get him, but you're going to pay another half. You're going to pay retail on him. I think he was $80, and another half of that anyway to get him. I got a good deal on him when I found him at the time I found him. But he has gone up since. I would like to have an extra sealed one. I've got a mind bender, but I'm just not ready to. I have him. He's on the shelf. So I'm just not ready to fork that out for another one that I'm not going to open, even though I want sealed exclusives. He's a very nice figure. He's fun to pose, and he's fun to. I had him fighting Cobra Commander. He's just excellently, excellently sculpted. There's not a whole heck of a lot else to really say about the figure itself. I mean, it speaks for itself and how it looks. Again, this is the only thing that I have an issue with is this is kind of loose here on his torso piece. He doesn't have much there at all. He's got the side to side, but the sculpting on the snakes that go all the way around him and up his shoulders, I think that's fantastic. Of course, he comes with this little snake. I wish was a little more posable. I wish this was like had some wire in it or something. But it's really just kind of made to sit there and kind of beside him like it's a giant pet snake. This is not Cobra Commander being turned into a snake because he was not a Cobra when they turned Cobra Commander into a snake. And of course, he does come with, you can't forget this. This is the snake meant for Duke's or Falcon's heart that hit Duke's heart. Honestly, I'd have been okay if it had hit Duke's heart, but I don't use this with him a whole lot. I've had him kind of like he's getting ready to chuck it at somebody. He's a very good figure. He's not one that I take out and do a whole lot of photography or anything with. Uh, just because he's not really my bag for my Cobra forces, I guess. He's better to me sitting on a shelf and doing scenes with. And of course, we've got to talk about the air chariot that he comes with, which is even cooler than the figure is. Got these twin giant guns. They look like giant 50 cals. They are removable. The fan spins on it. It does have little controls there, little gauges and stuff. This doesn't move. He doesn't fit on it very well for me. I don't have a lot of luck getting him to stay on it, especially if you want him to hold the handlebars. I just usually kind of stand him on it with his fist raised up and trying to look like he's holding one. And yeah, there you go. I'm coming to get you, Barbara. Next time when they bring me back. It's got foot pegs, but he don't really fit on it. It's better. This is better for a background piece, I think, for me anyway. But it's got some people. I didn't know this when I first got it. It's got the little cobra with his mouth that opens, and there's a little gun in there. It's pretty cool. But this is very reminiscent. It's a good recreation of the original Air Chariot, which I no longer have. I couldn't even begin to tell you whatever happened to that Air Chariot. But it's a good set. Like Serpentor is not for everybody, but I think he kind of got a raw deal because of the way that they were forced to portray him in the cartoon. In the comic, he's not as bad. He's still annoying. See if I can get little Serpy up there for a long time. I had him setting up here. Like he's setting up there, like, yeah, go faster, Dad. But you can see my original Serpentor. He's one of his teeth is broke. But this might be one of the tightest action figures from back then that I've got. You see, he's not moving. After I got a load of the cartoon, I did not play with him a whole lot because that's what you based your stuff off of. So other than having a broken tooth, my Serpentor is in very good shape, and he probably won't see the light of day again until I set up a shelf with some of these guys beside their classified counterparts. So there's a ton of lore with him if you want to dive into it. I don't. You can look up his Wikipedia and you can see all the different itinerations of him they've made since then. So I'm going to set him there, and before we do final thoughts on the figure, I will show you the best piece of Serpentor media, in my opinion, that's out there, and that is, of course, at the end of the yearbook 3, you have My Dinner with Serpentor. This is hilarious. If you've never read it, try to find it. This is not an expensive issue to pick up. I like the yearbooks. I always really, really like the yearbooks. Basically, in this, somehow, Serpentor is at a dinner hosted by the Dreadnoks, and it's just him and the Dreadnoks, the original Dreadnoks, and Dr. Mindbender. And they bring, of course, donuts and grape soda to feed Serpentor. And Mindbender, being the pompous dick that he is outraged that they would feed him that. And Torch says, "Oh, Buzzer's coming with the main course," and Buzzer brings him yummy little frozen pizzas. And of course, Mindbender flips out, a gastronomic outrage. That's I've made some of them in my day. I've made a few gastronomic outrages trying to feed myself. I just always really liked that. So Mindbender goes on, starts berating the Dreadnoks for trying to feed him pizzas. And like, pizzas are, and then Serpentor's like, not appropriate at all, my good doctor. I remember a little incident, blah, blah, blah. So basically, Serpentor recalls one of his memories of his past that he is wont to do, that he reminds us of many times over his history, where he remembers past from memories that are stored in his DNA, and basically goes on to tell how the pizza was really invented. And then there at the end, you get to see that. Man, that's awesome. So basically, what I want to do is whenever whenever I get Torch, whenever Torch finally comes out, one of the many things I hope to recreate in some pictures is something along the lines of this with recreating my dinner with Serpentor. So it's a really short, it's like 4 or 5 pages. It takes about a minute to read it. But that is Serpentor. Fantastic set, whether you like the character or not. Do you need him in your collection? No, you don't need him in your collection. If you're a completionist, of course you need him in your collection. However, I would recommend that you get him in your collection, and you get him in your collection now, because this is one of the figures that I don't anticipate the value of to drop. Not that these things should be considered retirement funds, but they're not going to make any more of this version of Serpentor. Of course, there's rumors that they're going to do a different version, probably a retro line or box card, box figure, something where he had a suit later where he was in black, I think. So they're going to make another version of this. They're not. I don't think they're going to not reuse this mold, and there's only so many things they can reuse this mold for. But as far as this one, I recommend picking him up just to have. He is good for pictures and stuff if you want to get him out and do it. I don't want to mess the cape up. I don't want to take him outside honestly and mess the cape up. But as far as a figure and a set, a lot of playability with him, a lot of posability. He's highly photogenic. So you don't need him, especially if you always hated him. But I would recommend giving the figure and the set a fair chance. Get him and open him up and play with him, even if you have Cobra Commander beating him up. Sergeant Slaughter, I've had him fighting Sergeant Slaughter. This set is easily a 4.5. I mean, with the chariot, you get a lot for him. Is a $80 price point, and that we're going to see more out of that. That's what I expect whenever we get Destro and the Despoiler. I'm expecting just about the same thing because it was just about the same kind of set. But you get a lot of accessories that are specific to the character with him and to the lore with him. The box is one of the boxes that are, they're an artwork piece. They're not just a cardboard and plastic prison for the figure. That I display this box in the Mindbender box like this because they look so cool and really recall a lot of the lore both from the comic and the cartoon. That's what I grew up on, so that's why I like it. He wasn't my favorite, um, but I didn't absolutely hate him either. I just wish they could have done more with him than what they did, or done it in a different way. So, guys, that is my review on the Limelight for Serpentor and the Air Chariot. If you like it, I appreciate you hitting that thumbs up. Subscribe, maybe tell some friends about it. I got a lot more of these I want to get out down the road. There's a lot of figures I got to go through to talk about in Limelight. So, until next time, I will see you guys on 3-Star Draw. This I command!